Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and today we are here at the Łazienki Royal Park, a special place in the center of Warsaw, the heart of the city. It has many historical events that transpire throughout Polish history, a lot of historical buildings and wonderful places to behold. Thankfully, the place survived the war and was able to provide a place for generations to admire. Together with our guest, we will see all these beautiful places such as the Royal Theater, the palace on top of the water, and even more. Join us in Poland Daily History, and we will take you on an adventure. We are here at the Myślewicki Palace. Very interesting name, by the way. And I was hoping you can tell me a little bit about where the name came from and who built this place, who was it built for, or just generally the architecture and anything interesting that you can tell me about this breathtaking establishment.
First of all, the name of the palace came from the village, which was here nearby during the reign of the Stanislaus Augustus. Okay. And the name of the village was Myślewice. So this is why Palace Myślewicki. Right. And the building was built for the king himself. Mm-hmm. According to the designs of the main royal architect, Domenico Merlini. And at the beginning was built the main part, which looks like the massive tower. And the inspiration for this shape, it was the Italianate style with the very famous villas like the Villa Borghese, Villa Medici, etc. And he brings some Italianate stylish style here to the Poland. And it was one of the buildings in the complex of the Łazienki. Mm-hmm. King wanted to have a few places when he could stay. It was up to his humor. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, King decided to build a white pavilion. Sure. From one side of the bathhouse, mm-hmm. and from another side, in the symmetrical way, he decided to build this place, the Myślewicki Palace. What is interesting that the palace was overbuilt. Two curved wings, mm-hmm. were added later. All right. And we know for sure that King, he spent here at least 2 summer seasons. Mm-hmm. And we are now at the Piano Nobile, so the most representative floor in the palace. So probably this place was belonging to the king himself. And we have even the list of the guests which were living here with the king. For example, one of his chamberlains or one of his generals. After the 1779, King decided to move from the Myślewicki Palace to the bathhouse, and he decided to give this building to his nephew, mm-hmm. to the Prince Joseph Poniatowski. Oh. And this place was belonging to the prince until to his death in 1813. After that, the sister of the prince, mm-hmm. She decided to sell the palace and also the entire area of Łazienki to the Russian Tsars. Mm-hmm. So then started the Russian period here in the Łazienki. This building was used under the Tsars, was used as a place for the Russian generals, the place for the living for the Russian generals and the officers. And after the First World War, when we have regained our independence, palace went back to the Polish state. And since the 1926, during the interwar period, he was living in the aide-de-camp of the Marshal Piłsudski, General Wieniawa-Długoszowski. He was living here with his family, with his wife and his daughter. And he was aide-de-camp of the Marshal Piłsudski.
Right.
And Marshal wanted to reward the general for his services, and he allowed to live the general here in the Palace Myślewicki. Why? Because he knew that the general was a great admirer of the Prince Józef Poniatowski, of the Prince Józef Poniatowski.
So for him, it would be like a very great honor to stay in a place where his hero virtually stayed in the same place. He walked the same halls under the same roof. Must be a very inspiring thing for him.
That's true. And the general had to move out from this palace after the death of the Marshal Piłsudski, and he became the Polish ambassador in Rome. And after that time, during the Second World War, during the occupation, building was used by the German Nazi officers. So after the war, the Second World War, building was used by the government of Polish Republic of the People. For example, here spent some time Vice President of the USA, Richard Nixon, and the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. What is interesting also for the modern history of the world, here since the 1958 until to 1972 took place secret talks, the USA and the Chinese Republic of People. Thanks to these secret talks, those two countries could start the official cooperation, and the Chinese Republic of the People could join to United States organization.
So there are several things I want to ask you to elaborate on. For example, you were telling me about the place being built by Italian architects, and I was wondering if it's the interior, the exterior, or are there any different styles that were incorporated? Because I do see not conflict, but a very good blending of different types of architecture.
Yes, especially two styles are joined into one. From the outside, we can see the influence of Italianate style, especially in the main part of the building, and the second one is the Chinese style.
The Chinese style.
Yes, exactly. The style of the roof, it's very similar to the Chinese or Japanese pagodas. The inspiration of that of the shape of these roofs, it was chinoiserie. It means we can translate the Chinese style, which was very popular in the second half of 18th century. So King, he wanted to prove that he's on the top. He knew what is very popular in Europe, so he decided to build the roofs in that shape.
And I could imagine it being a really fitting theme for those secret talks with the Chinese that you were talking about, right? And like maybe it brings a little bit of familiarity with the type of architecture presented in the palace.
Maybe, but what is interesting about the Chinese, American-Chinese secret talks, that they were aware of the bugs. So bugs, I mean
devices that are picking up the spyware.
Spyware. So they send to each other messages, writing them on the cards, on the paper.
Right.
So they avoid to use the voice. What is interesting that our government said that upstairs there is a room officially for a doctor, but there was an entire machinery which was allowing to hear what is happening here during the secret talks.
Interesting. And lastly, you mentioned a name, Józef Poniatowski, which is a very well-known name throughout history, as I know. And I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about his contribution to this place, or what he did here, and what is the significance of his relation with this very establishment.
Prince Józef Poniatowski, he is a great hero for the Polish state. He was originally the nephew of the king. And after the last partition of Poland, he lost hope and he started to live like the party man. He spent his money and he was like to spend the free time, all his free time on the parties. But later when Napoleon started his campaign against the other nations and he became the emperor of the Frenchmen, Napoleon offered to help to the Prince Joseph to restore Polish state. So from that time, Prince completely changed. He started to organize Polish forces here on the Polish lands. What is also interesting, Napoleon created quasi-independent Polish state called Warsawian Duchy. Of course, it was dependent from the Frenchmen, but it was we can say it was a beginning of restoration of our independence. Prince Joseph, alluding to his services for the Napoleon, but also for the independence of Poland, achieved the highest military Polish order, the first rank of the Order of Virtuti Militari. Later, during his services for the Napoleon I, he achieved another distinctional order, the Légion d'honneur, and again he achieved the first rank. And a few days before the Battle of Nations, Battle of Leipzig, Napoleon awarded him with the title the Marshal of France. Prince Joseph was the only one non-French Marshal of Napoleon. Unfortunately, Prince died during the Battle of Leipzig in 1813. He was commander of back army of the Napoleon. And during the battle, the bridge on the Elstera River was blown up. So if Prince wanted to join to main Napoleon forces, he decided to jump into the river and swim it through. But unfortunately, he was wounded. So he lost too many blood and he haven't got enough strength to
cross the river.
to cross the river. Unfortunately, he died. He was drowned in the river.